Hello,
Hello, Nanette.
how are you? We're at the Historical Society?
Yes,
Oh, that's cool.
my home computer tends to crash in Zoom conferences.
Oh, maybe you need a new computer.
Pardon?
Maybe you need a new computer.
Or maybe I need better internet service. Could
What are
be
you-
either or both.
What are you using now?
Well, it often says internet unstable. I just may not have the right kind of connection.
Yeah. You have Comcast or,
I have Verizon.
oh,
Hi, Michael.
hey, Mike.
Just talking about you today, but I can't remember.
Read your lips.
How about now?
Yep, you're
I
back.
can't hear you though.
I'm not muted. Maybe your volume.
I got it. My computer, my laptop's all jacked up. The screen's just like flickering and it's like the things are moving. I don't know if I'm having a hardware issue or I got to update the drivers. I don't know, but it seems like it's good for now, but it's the screen's all over the place. This is frustrating. How you doing now?
Well, it's rough, you know. They put a big, huge boot on my foot today. I don't know if you could see it. It's
Ooh,
humongous. It weighs a ton. And they said I could start, you know, standing on it. Don't walk on it yet until I have therapy. But it's just rough being stuck in the house. And today was the first day I've been out since March 30th. So,
wow.
yeah,
How much longer do they think your recovery time is?
probably another 4 weeks, maybe.
Okay.
I don't have another appointment with him until July. So,
Did you have a hip replacement?
no, I had a Achilles tendon repair.
Oh, okay.
And I was off it for, well, it's 3 weeks, 4 weeks, going on 4 weeks.
That really stinks. I hope I hope the last month isn't too bad for you.
Well, you know, the past 2 days I've been so busy. I haven't even turned on the TV. I mean, and that's usually the first thing I do in the morning. I turn on the news and it's on all day. But I've just been so busy with work and council and sustainable and a lot going on.
Yeah, for
A
sure.
lot of money falling from the heavens right now. It's like
Wow.
there's grants, so many grants available right now. We have a couple to talk about tonight. So,
Hopefully we can get some.
yeah,
the
right.
green
Well,
flag,
Hazel
yeah.
said she would be here. She's not on yet, but I want to get started because I'm burning out. And I just wanted to let everybody know, you know, we had gotten that energy planning grant last year, and we've been working on that to come up with a plan for things like switching LED to LED street lights and EV charging stations and, you know, doing improvements to buildings, HVAC or whatever, you know, and the Jody and Ryan are going to be working on it during the month of May. Now that the budget she's done with the budget. So we should have some kind of a report for city council in the next, I guess, month or so. I think we talked about doing something early June or maybe middle of June at city council to give everybody an update on what's going to be in the plan and when it'll be finished and all that stuff. So that entire $25,000 goes to Remington and Vernick to do the plan. So there's, you know, we have these monthly meetings and the people from Sustainable Jersey give you all these ideas on things that could be done. Where's my list here? Just yesterday, they said They have technical assistance available for school districts that want to do energy improvements, and they walk you through everything, like how to apply for the grants and all that stuff. They were looking at, the city is interested in purchasing a street sweeper, and they have opportunities to get funding to purchase an electric street sweeper,
I imagine those are really expensive. What do those go for?
like 600,000.
Wow.
That's what I said. It's like, I looked it up and I was like, it's $600,000. And they said, yeah, but they would buy it down to like probably 300,000, but still that's a lot. I don't think the city's prepared to spend that much. Also talked about South Jersey promoting, we did the energy promotions for Atlantic City Electric, and there's also programs for South Jersey Gas, which would probably be more appropriate for commercial businesses. So we're going to get some information on that and send it out to the list of my old chamber list of businesses in town. That would be for like lighting or refrigeration or anything that they want to do. They have lots of incentives to buy down the cost. And I don't know what this means. Well, the EDA, Economic Development Agency for the state, has funding for large commercial projects. For, say like that cannabis facility that's going to open up or something like that. So we can do stuff on that. That'll help us get some sustainable Jersey points. We're due for recertification, I think, next year. Okay, so that's the community energy planning grant update. Your Atlantic City stewardship grant, $5,000. I think the trail project will probably be dedicated for Memorial Day. You think that's going to be on target?
I think so. I'm the only thing I'm still waiting on is the signs, pretty much. Rich is printing them out now. I talked to him yesterday, actually. So he's also going to quote the installation too. We're trying to go with a little bit higher quality material, like for the big sign, that is where it's going to be the most money, which is the Mountain Laurel Loop. He's like, we can go really cheap where you would put the back of it on plywood. He's like, but that probably wouldn't last too long. So we're going to try to go with PVC on the back, and then the metal sign gets screwed in on top of that. So I'm also having them make the sign is what I've designed is 24 inches by 36 inches, but I'm going to have them make it be like an inch bigger all the way around.
Yeah, you said for the rivets, right?
Yeah, and that's where we'll screw it in, hopefully. And then he's got an idea for some PVC that we could put on top of those screws, or we could just paint them so it wouldn't be as noticeable. But I'm really trying to make sure that there's no screws visible in this sign, at least through the words. I don't want like right in the middle where the posts are at to have just a bunch of screw holes, like, because in Lincoln Park, the signs are nice, but a couple of the words, you can't really see the words. So, trying to learn from that a little bit, and hopefully this one, you won't see that. So he does think the installation will be a bulk of the cost. I don't think I have the skills necessary to install that, especially because we want it angled. It's not just going to be like this attached to a post. So we'll probably see what he quotes it out as. I just sent over the two signs. The one is the Mountain Laurel Loop, and the other one's for the dam. I still have two prototypes, one for the spoonwood and another prototype for the way the stamens are launched like a catapult, but the Cedar Creek artists aren't done with it yet. So we'll just deal with that once it's done. I've sent some more emails. One of them's not getting back. I don't know if the students are still working on these two or not. I've emailed Erin again too. She hasn't gotten back yet either. So I'll do another touch point and just see where they're at with that. But just with the two signs to start out with, those ones are fine to go forward, and that's going to be pretty good. The other signs, like no ATV riding and stuff like that, I'm going to see what Keith has in mind for that, because I think he said they already have some signs in like not at City Hall, but I guess at the Public Works spot. He's like, we already have a bunch of signs that we could probably just use.
Okay.
I talked with Jody. I'm going to go down to Home Depot, buy some paint for the Trailblazing. I'm also going to buy some small directional signs, just little arrows that I'll attach to some trees. And that's pretty much it. The Keith, well, you were on the call with Keith when we had it a week or two ago.
Yeah.
He's got pretty much everything he needs for the kiosk and the gate install. I've also synced up with Aaron about printing out the trail kiosk map. I don't think once again, I haven't heard back from her yet. So I just got to do some touch points, mostly with Aaron from Cedar Creek. I touched base with Lisa from Cedar Creek about students cleaning up, and they're going to be available. I think their students are already registered. There's really not much to clean up back there. I've been back there, I was back there maybe about a week and a half ago. There's only really 2 areas that need cleaning. For the most part, everything's looking pretty good. And I've been picking up things here and there too when I'm back there. So
Is that cleanup going to be on cleanup day?
yeah. Mhm.
Okay.
And I think Casey's going to kind of run the team. We
Okay,
already had a prior commitment. We have what is it? It's a water park, indoor water park thing that Claire booked on her Groupon back in like Thanksgiving. So we didn't even realize pretty much until like a month or 2 ago that we already are double booked. So once again, I won't be able to be there. I feel like the same thing happened last year with me. I just got a little unlucky, I guess.
you're not going to be there on the, when is it?
No, I won't. We're going up. We'll be coming back on
Okay.
Sunday morning. We go up Friday night, and then we spend Friday night there, and then Saturday's the water. It's Wolf Creek Lodge, I think it's called, somewhere up in the Poconos.
Mhm.
So,
Well,
yeah,
I can't be there either, so I guess Casey's going to have to take the lead on
yeah,
that.
and it's really not a lot of work. It's not. Even if they don't get to it, I'll still be able to get to it. It's not much. It's only going to take a couple people an hour or so. The only thing they'll need is a shovel, because there's some broken bottles. They'll need a shovel to get some of that broken glass up. So also in the mill, Keith said he can pick up the rails and the benches. I think they're pretty much going to be ready any day
Right,
now.
right.
Last I talked with them, so I think
I
things are.
hope they look like that picture I sent you.
I do too. Yeah, I think they're going to look pretty cool. I mean, I saw the big oak tree they're going to be cutting it from, and it's a nice piece of wood. So I think that they're going to look, whatever they make is probably going to look pretty cool. And then I bet you the rails are going to look pretty rustic too. So we'll just drive those benches right on back there, set them up, and then go from there. I think one of the only other things we got to buy, I'm not sure how to do, is order the trash cans and get that, like, I guess on ACUA schedule, and I'm picking it up. I guess we
I
should get
think
one
he-
trash can and one recycling.
Yeah, Keith may have some at the Public Works yard. I don't know if he-
Okay.
He does not have any at the Public Works yard. I order those for specific purposes, and they would have to be ordered through the Clean Communities money. And we don't have any extras. Most of them go to the lake. The other ones go to the Crusaders Field. And
Are
Dylan's
they
back.
ACUA ones?
Well, we order them through, they're the same ones you see all throughout town, the blue ones and the green ones. That's the standard that we order. We use
They
the
have lids and all?
community's money. No, it's just the if you ever went to the Crusaders Field and saw the games, like they have the blue and the kind of greenish color ones, that's what we order.
And what do they do? Use a liner?
No, it has a can in it. There's a can, like plastic can in it.
Oh, okay. I know what you mean.
Oh. And as far as Casey goes, Casey's got a big job on her hand, because there's probably going to be at least 200 Cedar Creek and other students there. There's Apsagami students and Oakcrest students. She cannot commit herself to that area. So I don't know what, I know we have a group, the environmental group at Cedar Creek, that apparently Mike, you set up for them to go there. However, unless there's specific instructions as to what they want to do, they're only going to be cleaning up trash.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's all he needs.
Yeah, so I'll swing it with Casey too, because if she's got a lot going on, she's not going to want to be walking back there. I'll have the trail blazed before the cleanup, so we should be able to just walk the blue trail and clean up what you can.
She can send them down the trail. That's her job at the cleanup. She sends the students where they have to clean up.
Yeah,
To make
they won't
sure
be- they
that
won't
all
be able to-
areas of the lake have to get cleaned up.
They won't miss it on the trail. It's really that old dune area, and then a little offshoot right to the left, and that's it. For the most part, the trail's already cleaned. There's just been some recent partying back there, and there's a couple of broken glass areas. So even if they don't get to the broken glass areas, which is a little bit harder to find, I'll just get that by myself. But the big
Okay.
open dune area, they shouldn't be able to miss that. It's really, as long as you just walk straight back, you really can't.
Right. But this is basically going to be a cleanup trash, because if there's no supervision, they can't really do any work for you to help get the trail, whatever has to be done, like that might have to be a separate project.
Understood. I'm with you too. Yeah, for anything where we have to like clear brush, I probably want to be back there anyways. So we'll just tell them, clean up the cans and bottles and just do what you can. Overall, though, I don't know if you've been back there, if anyone's been back there recently. It's looking good. I mean, Keith, they went to the old dam area and kind of cleared that out a little bit. The trail's mostly graded. There's really not a lot of stuff that needs to be done out there to make it like, okay, this is now a walkable trail. It's just got to get some little bit of trash up here and there.
Okay, sounds
They-
good.
They got the big stuff out. He got a huge mattress that was out back there. He cleaned that up. And I think there's a couple things in the creek that they're going to pull out. That like farm wheels still in there as an example. And I think they're going to go back there and get that before Memorial Day.
Okay, that sounds good.
All right, so we got an announcement today, or at least I got it at the media, that Atlantic City Electric is announcing the next round of stewardship grants, which is what you have. So we can apply. This project will be done by June. The project application is open till June 29th. So we'll be done by then. So we could close that one out and apply for another one. And I wanted to, get some ideas. I like the idea of doing something near the Sybil Schaller grave site. So if we could, apply for something like that. And unless anybody else has any ideas on stewardship or resiliency, they cut the resiliency grants from $10,000 to $5,000. So the first year we got the grant, we got it to shore up the bulkhead at the lake. And then your grant was the next one. So we got the 5,000 too for Lincoln Park to do the signs in Lincoln Park. So this will be like our fourth application. But it seems like we should try to apply for something. So anybody else have any ideas on what we could ask for?
Well, I definitely like the Sybil Schaller idea. I think there's, if you're staying at that right where the dam's at, where the little red dam house is at, you can tell there's a little trail that goes towards the grave site. Putting some signs in there, cleaning that up a bit, maybe some steps over by the over by the bridge that goes over the creek there, and then maybe like gazebo and fixing up the fencing around the grave site. Maybe even have the gravestone itself restored a little bit better, cleaned, some more signs. I think that would be pretty nice. That's a nice little section of woods right there in the grave area.
And people go back there. It's a geocaching site back there too.
Oh, it is? Oh, cool.
Yeah, if you go online, it'll lead you there. And
Yeah, I mean, a lot of
was
people don't
there
even know
once.
it's there either. I remember when we had the dog attack thing. Well, it wasn't a full-on attack, but when the dogs charged us at the one meeting, I was talking to the cop and I was like, yeah, they're back. People are back by the grave site right now. He was like, what grave site? He didn't even know about it. So I thought that was pretty interesting. I think a lot of people don't realize it's there. And just having some signs and having that trail spruced up and just being able to walk right from the beach over there and have it marked out, I think that'd be pretty cool. I'm sure there's other things we can think of too.
Yeah. All right, it also needs to be cleaned up, that area too, because it is kind of messy. And that trail goes way back into the woods too,
It
right?
does. Oh yeah. Yeah. It goes all the way back to the old, I guess, causeways. I think they called them like 7 bridges or something like that. Or I can't remember. Dennis told me what they were for. I think a lot of them were they were originally cranberry farms or something. And then they were going to make bridges over the Landon Creek. And that's pretty much what they lead to. There's I think they're from like WPA or some work in the 30s or something like that. If you go back behind the grave site, there's old cellars and things like that. It's all kind of mossed over now. But the trails go in all sorts of ways back there. It's a pretty cool section of woods, and you can take it pretty much all the way to Clark's Landing Road.
Right, right.
So it's definitely pretty back there. But just getting up to the Schaller spot, just focusing on that area,
Yeah, just that.
be quite a project itself. I think that's not a bad idea.
All right. Well, if anybody else has any other ideas, let me know. We got a little time on it, but and the other thing is we need to invite Atlantic City Electric to the dedication. when we-
Okay.
When we do the, all right. And then there's another grant opportunity I floated around. This grant's due June 30th. It's the William J. Porter Community Tree Project Award. It's $2,500 for a tree project. I thought of putting, using the money to buy the trees for the park one. The Philadelphia Avenue that they're working on now, but I was told that they already bought trees there for there. So if we could come up with another idea for a tree planting that would cost less than $2,500, we could also apply for this award, which I think we would, it look favorably on us for, because they gave us that award last year or the year before, that big leaf that we got. It's from the same organization. So they're aware of our efforts to work on our trees. So if you come up with any ideas, it's a real simple application. It's one page. And, just put in the description.
Like where the trees would go, like what needs planting?
Yeah, like where can we plant some trees?
Well, I think some could be, at least at the lake area, some could be replaced on the main road in. Some of the white pines there have been cut over the years. And if you go right on not the campground road, but the access road to the lake, you can tell there's a couple spots now where the trees are missing. It's a real pretty little section of a road there. I think also along the fence, kind of somewhat near where the dumpsters are at, putting either Mount Laurel in there or some other sort of evergreen that would give you a year-round kind of cover. I think that'd be pretty nice too. Sure, there's a lot of spots in town as well, but just off the top of my head, I always thought that road kind of that goes behind the campground back towards Philadelphia Ave could definitely use some trees and shrubbery kind of along the way. I think that would really beautify it quite a bit.
All right. So that's another opportunity. And then we haven't heard about the small grant that we applied for our green team, but they should be announcing it any day. They said the end of April. So hopefully we'll get what's today? Tuesday, maybe something by Friday would be nice to know. And then there's a big grant available from the federal government. We've been applying to the New Jersey Urban and Community Forestry Program for our street tree plantings over the last couple of years. We got two $30,000 grants. This opportunity, the minimum you could ask for is it $100,000 minimum, maximum 50 million. So this money is coming from the infrastructure improvement fund that the federal government approved. And I would like to apply for a grant to do tree maintenance. Our street trees are in poor shape. Some of them with some maintenance, they could be saved for another 10 years or so. Others need to come down. I thought about, putting money aside to do a match for any road programs that we do. So that this way, I talked to Ryan about it, and he said, we don't get that much money in the grant to do the roads to cover the trees as well. So this could supplement that and maybe give an extra $50,000 if each year, say, to remove the trees that need to be removed and make sure that they're replaced and so forth.
Doesn't the city have an ordinance that says it may not maintain its street trees?
Say that again?
The city has an ordinance. It's one of two in the whole state, that municipalities that have an ordinance that say that the city bears no responsibility whatsoever for street trees, maintenance or anything else. To me, that's the first thing that needs to be gotten rid of. And you're on
We're going to
council.
talk about that next. We're going to talk
Okay.
about a street tree protection. ordinance.
Okay, but I would think if you want money from a grant, one thing you might buy with it is a cherry picker that the city could use to maintain its street trees.
Yeah, I had that in there, and I learned by attending two webinars this last week and this week. In fact, one was earlier today, that the large purchases like that are not included in the grant. but they instead encourage leasing. So if we
Either
could
way, sure.
you could lease a picker, a cherry picker, but you can't buy one, which
Okay,
is what I was
that's
hoping
fine.
to do, is to get the Public Works,
That's
you know,
fine.
a lift, which is what they need to do this, you know, small. But I would also like to see the money used to hire an arborist or you know, like Asplund or a company like the Tree Man, or to come through and let them do all the tree maintenance, like just go street to street over the course of the
Would-
fall and the
Would
spring.
that
or whatever.
include removing dead trees?
Yeah, I would, yeah, I think
Good,
we'd want to
good.
take the bad ones down and replace them. So we're working on that. I'm waiting to hear from, you know, the powers that be about what they want to include in this grant. We approached Triad to do the application, and we got an estimate, $37.50 to apply for the grant. $3,750, which is a lot, but there's a lot to this grant. At first, I thought I would be able to do it on my own, but it's really complicated, and I'm sure they have the resources to, you know, cover all the bases when it comes to things that are required.
If
by
I
the
could,
application.
if I could get into this conversation, the one thing that I wanted to do was maintain our forested areas. We have some forested areas in the city that are overgrown with wisteria and ivy that are killing our trees, and they're going to eventually die and fall on somebody's house. I think maintenance of those areas really should be included in this grant. That's what
Okay.
that's my feeling.
Well, how would we accomplish that?
You get Public Works to get in the forest. And if they have to rent equipment to get rid of the wisteria and chop it down, or whatever they have to do, because the barks on the wisteria are probably like 8 inches thick by now. I mean,
Yeah.
all you have to do is ride around, and look, you'll see what's going on.
Well,
And
where are you talking about when you say the wooded areas?
well, just for example, one area that I can think of off the top of my head is 13th Terrace. There's a ton of wisteria killing the trees there.
Well, in the city proper or out by the lake?
No, in the city, 13th
Oh,
Terrace
okay.
is right behind New Orleans Avenue.
Okay, so you're talking
It's
about
kind of east or west, sorry, west of New Orleans Avenue.
and are these privately owned properties,
No, it's city property.
city-owned properties? Okay. Yeah, that's exactly what they're trying to do is
And not for nothing, we have that area that goes over the Lower Bank Bridge, which was infiltrated by saltwater during Superstorm Sandy. That was never addressed. As a matter of fact, I think I was told that, you know, that was not the case. However, if you go down there, you'll see that there's dead cedar trees everywhere before you get to the bridge. So that could be something that's addressed. I don't know how. I haven't looked at the grant, but that's also a concern that I think we should have.
If that's dead cedar, it's very valuable, and
really.
anybody like Paul Shire would be happy to have it.
Yeah, well, I tried that years ago, and I was accosted by people that did not want to harvest cedar trees. So then Superstorm Sandy came, and it just destroyed the trees anyway. So yes, I realized that Paul Shire would do it. He has asked me in the past if he could do it, selective forestry.
Mhm.
However, it was met with a lot of opposition from people on, I'm not going to say on the green team, but possibly, I don't remember.
Well, I don't ever remember having that I remember conversations at council and people of the public complaining about it. But, you know, if you look at the comprehensive management plan, that type of lumbering and harvesting and growing is all sustainable, which is like many of the houses here in Egg Harbor City are built with the wood that he harvested. He planted, harvested, and milled. So that's sustainability. It means that wood is not coming from Canada it's coming from your own backyard. So,
Right, well, listen, Paulie Shire would be happy to do it. He approached me years ago, and I was told, as an example, on Hamburg Avenue, where it was clear cut, that it was all grown up and like, it never came back. And that was right across the street from Hazel Mueller's house.
It is
Okay,
coming back.
She was the proponent. She was the one that did not want that to be done.
yeah,
So I let it go, just so you know. I'm just
Okay.
gonna say it.
all right. And
Or
so
should I
anything
say
else
opponent?
that you think of? I mean, I'm more concerned about the street trees because that's where the people live and that's where we need the trees the most, but I don't mind going out and doing stuff like that in the city proper, but as far as out in the woods, I think, Paul Shire owns cedar stands. I know he owns land out there that he maintains and plants, and cedars only grow when you clear cut. They don't grow in the shade. They don't grow in the shadow of maples and oaks. They grow where the sun is shining. That's what they need to grow, and they need wet feet. So, I mean, he knows all that stuff, and he's as good as a forester in some respects. Do you know what I mean?
Listen, I 100% know what you mean, and we could have dealt with this issue probably 14 or so years ago. But like I said, it was met with great opposition to clear cutting. And now after Superstorm Sandy, we've lost all those trees. And it's just very sad that that happened.
All right, well, we'll work with Triad, I guess. We need to come up with what we want to ask them to include into the grant. And we also need to get approval to spend this money, $37.50, to do the application. So I don't know where that money would come from. It's up to the city council, I guess. You're having a meeting with them, Triad?
Well, yeah, I'm having a meeting. You're going to be there too next week, right?
When is it
Yeah.
exactly? Do you remember? Let me see.
I think it was the 4th. I'm not at my desk right now.
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah, the 4th, 11 o'clock. So we should decide and have our ducks in a row by then about what we want to include in this grant, because the grant's due in June. So it's involved. So he's going to have to write up the program and figure out what we could pay for, what we can't pay for. I've been attending the webinars, but they tell you what they have to tell you. And there were 250 people on each of these webinars, and on the side, everybody was asking questions. I asked a question and 50 people, asked the same question, but it didn't get answered. So they're looking for you to email them and ask your question, and we're going to get back to you on everything, but I haven't heard from them yet. So we'll see what happens with that. But I think I would think we could ask for at least $500,000 for trees and come up with a program that we could implement over 5 or 10 years. It's the money replenishes, not replenishes, but the money will be there for, I think, 5 or 6 years, so that there might be cycles. There might be announcements that more money is available because we didn't distribute what we thought we were going to distribute, that type of thing. And it's all coming from the infrastructure funding that President Biden got approved. So it's a lot of money. I think it's 1 billion dollars. So that's pretty good just for tree maintenance and tree projects. We did have, or next thing here is we did have our brownfields meeting a couple weeks ago. I thought it was very good. It was very basic information about brownfields, and we did get one good thing out of it. In fact, that they are willing to work with the developer at the tower site to help him get the approvals he needs to do what he wants to build that movie studio. So I think the connection was made, I think Ryan said there's possibly next week they might get together. So he said there was a meeting with the city. I don't know what that meeting was about, but he said that since he met with the city, he's ready to go and contact the TAB program. So
The meeting with the city was to discuss what his next steps are and what he has to do. We have to actually sell him the property and come up with a memorandum of agreement as to what's going to be done out there.
okay. Is somebody working on that?
Apparently,
Like who?
Angela,
Angela?
well, he's got a few things he's got to do, and then, we have the sale price already and all that jazz.
Well, shouldn't that come to the finance committee?
It already did. We already had that years ago. It's just that it's been so long. I think it's $10,000 an acre. He's buying approximately 35 acres. So that has to be settled first. And then once he has site control, pretty much, then we can get to doing the, plan.
All right. You think that's enough money to that in today's market?
Yeah, that's plenty.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. And because he has brownfields issues there, and it's a former household dump that I don't know if he's going to develop near it or if it needs to be cleaned up or whatever. But
We already did a study on that with the money we got from the Atlantic County. And basically it's just a very simple, there's really nothing hazardous there. It's just household trash. So basically he can actually just put like a cover over it, or if he wants to use that area for a parking lot, whatever. All he has to do is cover it. It's not a big deal.
Okay. All right, good. So they'll work on that together. And then we have been I have been working on developing a tree protection ordinance. The state last 2 weeks ago sent out a notice that where did I lost you guys? Wait a minute. Where you at here? Oh, no, I got so many things open. Oh, there you go. That it's part of the stormwater protection ordinances that the state is pushing, but they're recommending a tree replacement. They call it a tree replacement ordinance. And I got the basic structure of the ordinance from that document and added a lot of stuff to it. But I don't think there's so much involved with trees. Like the mayor said, there's reforestation and all that stuff. I think for our purposes, our green team's purposes, we need to concentrate on street trees. So I kind of rewrote my spiel on this and put in like the purpose of the ordinance and I wanted to talk about some of the things in here. They cite historically significant trees, which are like very large trees or very unusual trees that are growing, which means they should be protected in some way. So that's in the definition. We do not have a shade tree commission, but I switched this around to say shade tree committee of the green team to be assisting in this ordinance and doing inspections and things like that. The planting strip, which is the right away, defined street tree removal. Let me see here. Shade tree committee is a subcommittee of SustainableEHC, the city's green team. Application. Okay, so, and this is what's recommended in the state's ordinance, that you apply to get permit to remove a tree. And of course, they're talking about any tree on even private property. But personally, I don't want to go there. I think we have a lot of old trees in town that, if like my neighbor right next door has a tree that's humongous, but it's half dead and she's trying to save it. She's going to call an arborist and all that. I don't think we should get involved with that. I think we should concentrate on the trees that are in the right of way because they're pretty much on city property. So we're going to have to develop an application process that any tree, any person planning, I sent this out to everybody today. I don't know if you got it. Did you get the sample? Person planning to remove a street tree with I guess a DBH, they call it DBH. It's the diameter at chest height, 4 feet, 4.5 feet off the ground, of 2.5 inches or more. Should have to apply to the zoning or code enforcement department for a permit. And the permit, the code enforcement would have to look at the tree to see if it's healthy. If it's healthy, then they could deny the permit. If it's sickly and it really should come down, or if it's hazardous in any way, they could issue the permit. And then it would be totally up to the property owner to remove the tree at their own expense. And they would be required to replace it. And if they can't replace it on that site because of any kind of underground utility, then they would make a donation to a tree fund. So we'd have to establish a trust fund. And the cost of the trees that we've been planting, the first round was about $300 a tree. The second round that we just did last November, the trees were $400 they averaged out to $400 a piece to get them planted. So I'm suggesting that they have a $400 donation to replace the tree. And then there's, like if there's 2 trees on a property, they'd have to replant 2 trees and so forth. And there's a chart in here. And I put $25 per tree as the application fee. Like the way the state wrote it, it's like if somebody's going to be developing a property and they're taking down 100 trees, they would say you have to replace 25 of them or something like that. But like I said, I don't want to go there. We have so many different clauses about trees in our developmental ordinance and in other ordinances throughout the code book. So, I mean, you'd have to change everything and put everything into one tree ordinance. And I have like 6 or 8 different sample ordinances from different municipalities. In fact, Angela sent me one this morning. They're very involved and they're mainly for trees on personal property. And like I said, I don't think we should go there. I think we should just worry about our street trees. We are asking that if somebody takes down a tree or gets a permit to take down a tree, that they have to replace it within a year with a tree of at least 2.5 inch caliber, 8 to 12 feet tall, which is kind of what we planted in November. The trees we got were gorgeous. They're doing all doing great. Everybody loves them. We did a good job this time around, I think. Then it asks for a sample list, and I got some trees in here that I picked out of several different tree books I have, and through the comprehensive management plan. And I specifically put a clause in here that Bradford pear trees and the emerging invasive crepe myrtles are prohibited from being planted on the street. You want them put them in your yard if you want, but we really should ban planting Bradford pears everywhere. They're so invasive, it's not even funny. They would be required to maintain the tree for 2 years, mulch it properly, do all that good stuff that we had talked about in November. Let me see what else is in here. Establish the tree fund, removing nuisance trees. Any tree that's endangering the public streets, the rights of way, vehicular access, or shall, at the discretion of the zoning or code enforcement office or an arborist approved by the city, they shall be removed. and or trimmed within 30 days of notice. Like, in other words, if the zoning department cites a property owner for a tree that's like leaning into the street and in danger of falling over, they would have 30 days to address it. And if they don't, they could be either fined, or they could be, the city could take it down and charge them as a lien on their property. There's a clause in here about making sure that when the tree's removed, that it's properly recycled, either the trunk used for milling or the branches chipped and used as mulch somewhere. And they should be able to certify that. The person who, if they hire a company to do it, should be able to certify that they're using the refuse in a proper manner and not just dumping it in the woods, which a lot of people do. There's an appeal process. And I guess the appeal would first be to the Shade Tree Committee. And if they're still not happy, then they can go to I guess the governing body. What else is in here?
Can I just interject here for a second, because and Dick knows this as well as I do, that we never did establish a shade tree committee, because once you establish that puts the onus on the city to remove the trees or trim the trees or do whatever has to be done to the trees, not the owner. So I don't know if that's still true, or judging by the ordinances that you're reading, it doesn't sound like it would be on the city to do this. However, in the past, that's why we do not have a shade tree committee, because it
Well,
would
we
be the
had-
sole responsibility of the community, of the municipality, to remove those trees
Right.
and take care of those trees.
Well,
Now,
that's
we
something that
could do
Angela-
that if we got that grant, and then you can rent whatever tree trimming
Yeah,
things you would want to do. But
right.
if you don't have the grant, obviously we don't have the manpower, we don't have the equipment to do that.
Well, Angela could probably be the one to answer that question if it's required. We did have a shade tree commission in the 90s, and it was abolished for those reasons, that they didn't want to be responsible for them. And I remember standing up at a council meeting and saying, wait a minute, you planted these trees 100 years ago, you've been maintaining them all along, now you don't want to maintain them anymore. And the cost of removing a tree is about $1,000. I had 2 of them removed on my curb, and it cost me $1,000 each time to get rid of it.
But
So-
we really haven't been maintaining them. That's the problem. In that
Well, not lately,
they're
no, for
growing
sure.
insane. Yeah.
Right, which is why I think we need to apply for that grant, because I know the city cannot afford to do this, but if we could get money and put it aside and have it available to get either the things we need, the tool you can buy saws and things like that with the money. You just can't get any large equipment. It has to be leased. So, we might be able to lease it from a company. We could hire a company to come through and sweep the town and do the maintenance on an annual basis. And I've talked to several tree, and the other thing too, I think the state has regulations about who can prune a tree. Has to be a certified, not an arborist or a certified tree expert. And so our guys aren't certified tree experts, so we really should have somebody professional come in to see if trees can be saved. And they know the proper way to prune them to get more life out of the trees. I don't want to see our trees all come down at the same time. And that's where we're headed right now.
And then the other problem you have is the electric company. How do you circumvent that? Because they're the most egregious offenders of improper pruning of trees and making them dangerous to traffic and pedestrians alike.
I don't think we can get any way. I don't think there's any way around that, because they have easements, and basically if it's under their wires, they can trim them. And I went to training in Cherry Hill twice and talked to people who do that type of work, and they said the way to prevent that is to not plant trees under those wires. And we only have that problem on the streets and in the terraces. They come through and every year and they trim where they have to, because they don't want to see their electricity interrupted, and neither do the residents. So I don't think we could get around that. I think we should give them the opportunity to trim those trees or remove them if they get sick. But either when you do a planting, maybe we should prohibit trees from being planted on the streets and just concentrate on the avenues where there are no utilities. So that there is something in here about giving the utility companies the right to take care of their stuff. It's like we don't want to get involved in trimming trees around utility wires. Let them do it. They're the experts at that. Although
Well, it doesn't look like
trees
they're
growing like
experts.
this.
They just basically do what clears their wire and that's it. The rest of it looks like crap. But
Well-
I live on New Orleans Avenue, and during Superstorm Sandy, derecho, whatever, when the winds were blowing, I mean, my husband had to cut a limb which hit the electric that is on the avenue because it does connect there somehow. And the whole street's electric went out for like 4 days, but it was going to go anyway. However, the point being is that there are some electrical contacts that are on avenues. And that's why I had to remove my 2 trees.
Well, where is it in here? Let me see what I put in here. They would be listed under exemptions. And it just says clearing, cutting, and removal of trees, which is necessary to service, maintain, ensure the continued safe use of lawfully existing structures, rights of way, which is for the utilities, fields, parks, and or gardens. And that would be an exception. And any exceptions would be for trees removed according to what the DEP wants or the EPA wants, or any type of higher authority. And nuisance trees may be removed by the municipality, county, state, or federal authority pursuant to law with no fee. Like in other words, if the county is doing something on one of their roads and they say this tree's got to come down, we won't charge them the fee and we won't make them replant, but they're going to take full responsibility for taking it down. And pruning and removal of trees within the right of way of a utility company for maintenance of utility wires or pipelines, and that includes, stuff in the street, and the pruning of trees within site easements. Like in other words, if there's a tree in the way of like if the police department says the people can't see around that tree, then that would be an exception to the ordinance. So that's, and I put here fines for violations of the ordinance would be $500 per offense, and removal of a historically significant tree unless otherwise approved by the municipality is subject to a fine of $1,000 to prevent people from taking down historically significant trees, which I saw one posted on Facebook the other day. It had to be, it was humongous, and it was just somebody walking a trail in the woods in the Pinelands. And it was a gorgeous tree. I said that should be reported to the state because they're looking for those historically significant trees. So that's what I came up with. But then there's the one that Angela sent me today that is more comprehensive. I have several others. I have Galloway's. Galloway's is more geared towards clear cutting and major development and so forth, because that's what they need in their municipality. I think for our purposes, we should concentrate on our ordinance should protect our street trees in city proper. So that's what I have. If anybody has any suggestions, we're going to be talking about it tomorrow night at the ordinance committee meeting. I don't suspect that we'll be able to get this done right away. It's going to take a lot of discussion and negotiation on this, because, you know, I don't know what I'm doing. I never wrote an ordinance before. So I'm sure when Angela gets her hand on it, she's going to want to clean it up a lot. But so if anybody has anything that they want to, you know, fill out that, I sent you the ordinance I did today, and it's got a lot of red writing in it. That's the stuff I put in. So if you have any suggestions, use a different color, use green or something.
I have read it, and yes, I have many, many suggestions.
Okay,
I would tear it to pieces, I'm afraid.
did you see it?
I don't, yes, and I don't
Okay.
think council would even look at it, basically. And of course, they would send it to their solicitor at some early stage also to see what comments might have, but I can put them all in writing if you like.
Yeah, do that, please.
Okay. If it's, as it's titled, a street tree ordinance, it should not say anything about trees that are not street trees. And you have lots of stuff about
Yeah, I
trees
know,
on
that's
private
where
property.
Yeah, that's the stuff that needs to either come out, or maybe we should consider putting all that stuff in, because this was based on a sample ordinance sent to us by the state. So this is what the state is recommend that you include, but it doesn't have to say everything.
Yes.
You know, and I think the major part of the state's effort is to preserve like groundwater and things like that, and filtration into the stormwater system. And
But I
there's a
would
lot more.
start, and this really needs the mayor's ear and thoughts, to say that there's something like 542 municipalities in the state of New Jersey, and of those, all but 2 are responsible for their street trees, Egg Harbor City, and one other municipality has an ordinance that says the city is not responsible for street trees. I think that's the #1 highest priority to be rectified by getting rid of that ordinance.
I've never, I've looked at all the ordinances regarding trees. I don't see anything in there. If anything, the ordinance was abolished. Any prior ordinance might have been abolished. We don't have anything other than they're in the developmental ordinance. It says that they have to
No,
replace.
this is not in the development ordinance. It's a completely separate ordinance, and it was under Ed, what was his name? The previous city boss.
Ed Dennis.
Ed Dennis, yes. I think was responsible for an ordinance that says Egg Harbor City is not responsible for street trees. And I just think that's as wrong as anything could possibly be. But
Yeah, well, if that's in there, I haven't seen it. If you could find it, I have the code book here, but like I said,
I'll see what I can, if I can
there's
find it.
little tidbits all over that book about trees, and
yes.
there really is no.
Well, if you want the mayor's opinion is that we have 4 people now in Public Works, 4. Okay. And we can have more. Okay. But all I hear is how high our taxes are, blah, blah, blah. I mean, we should hire more people in Public Works so they could do this maintenance. And like I stated before, if we do get the grant, it would help us out a lot, because we could rent the equipment or buy some equipment, whatever the case may be, that would allow us to do this. But, we're a small community, and we have 4 people in Public Works who have to deal with everything in the city, everything that has to do with Public Works. And, it's kind of a heavy lift. And if we could, like I said, get that grant and secure the fact that we could do this, then I would be definitely in favor of that, of taking care of the trees, because it's a source of, irritation for some of the residents, namely some of them on Buffalo Avenue, Nanette, that you live next to, that complain about having to take care of their trees
Who?
because they don't have the money to do it. The lady on the corner, she doesn't want to take care of those trees.
The lady,
Didn't she lose a couple trees, or they were rotten? She's called City Hall several times, And she was told that
She's
she
got
has to
diseased
take care of
trees
them.
all over that lot, and those the ones that with the code enforcement should go by and say, you have to take that tree down.
Well, they have told her that. However, people
She had
don't
a
have the
tree
money
laying
to
on
do
the
those things.
sidewalk for how long?
Mhm.
2 weeks?
Yeah,
mean,
well,
people
that's the
have to
kind of
take
person I'm talking
responsibility for their
about.
properties.
Well, this is what Dick's talking about, that the city would then take responsibility for that, which isn't necessarily a bad thing in my opinion. However, we have to have the staff and we have to have the money to do it, and we have to have the equipment. They don't have the equipment to do things like that.
Yeah, I know. I know.
That's the problem.
That's the whole idea behind applying for the grant, so that
Right.
they could get what they want. Also, like I said several times already, I don't think our guys should be out there doing these major tree. I think a company should be hired who's experienced in tree trimming and things like that to sweep the city and go block by block over the course of maybe 2 or 3 years. You could divide the city up into sectors and say, we're doing this section this year. Next year, we're going to do that side of Philadelphia Avenue, and give the money, because the idea too behind the grant is to create jobs. And, if you want to hire a tree expert to work for the city, that would be great. But I think we could sub it out. We could just issue a contract to, somebody who has all this equipment, and just let them do all the trimming every year.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, but we need the grant to do it because we can't afford to do it ourselves. I
Yeah,
mean,
right,
it's a
right.
few $1,000s a tree to have it removed if
Yeah.
the city were to pay for it. I
Yeah.
remember we paid Tom after the Superstorm Sandy or the derecho, one of them. We
$35,000.
paid him like $1,000 a day to
Yeah.
identify and remove trees.
Right.
Which I guess wasn't a bad deal, but
No, it was a good deal, actually. But they were taking down trees. They were removing
right,
the wood.
right.
They weren't trying to preserve the tree. So that's why, you really do need, I think the state has a regulation where the person who does this type of work has to be certified, has to be a certified tree expert or a arborist. And, all these UCF, Urban Community Forestry, they have their guidelines. There's industry guidelines. So all these different organizations have their requirements for you to get these certification. And if you look at like the woman who did our tree plant, she's got like 10 sets of letters behind her name because she's got all these designations. That's the type of person that should be saying, okay, you could cut that branch off, don't cut that one. That won't kill the tree if you take that. You know what I mean? So I mean, either that or we get our guys trained, certified, get them the equipment they need. I don't think we could afford that. I think the best way to go is to sub it out to somebody who knows their stuff. We could ask for as much money as we want from this grant. There's no limit to it. We could ask.
Well, then I think we should do it. I think we should do it and, get what we need to get the job done. That's my opinion.
Right.
Because our guys certainly can't do it. They can't even do what they have to do now.
I
Okay.
agree. They should have some equipment, and I believe if they could, maybe we could do a shared service agreement with another municipality if they have a lift, so that we could borrow their lift to just do minor stuff. Like they come through the terrace here every so often, and they cut the low branches on my fir trees because, they're in the way of the trash trucks and things like that. So that minor stuff is one thing, but to do the big trees that are, lining our streets, the big sycamores and all that, I think we need a professional company.
I wonder if the Mayor's Council for South Jersey Communities, that I know that the mayor is a part of, would be interested in hearing and discussing and recommending an approach to street trees, see if there's anything in common that you guys have, because we all are Pinelands communities and we're all pretty small.
Well, I'm willing to listen to anybody who knows more about trees than I do, because I don't know a whole lot. I just know I love them, and I know I want to preserve the character of the city. I don't want to see our trees disappear. There's just a list of benefits a mile long You know, if you look at this first paragraph, these are all the benefits of having trees. And, you know, just to cool your house, you know, you need trees to protect you from the sun. You need trees for wildlife. You need trees to pick up the groundwater and to suck up the groundwater. If not, you're going to have flooding on certain streets and so forth. So I just don't want to see them lost. I don't want to see this. I mean, we don't have too much going for us anymore. Our housing stock is going down the tubes. We got to preserve the trees. It hides some ugly houses. And so, Lisa, maybe you could advocate to spend that $3,700.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, I had been an advocate for putting aside money, you know, with the sale of the water treatment plant to pay for these types of grants because, you
Well,
know,
we're
we
not going
don't,
to be able to wait that long. We're going
right.
to have to spend this money now.
Well, it could maybe come out of the recreation. I mean, that would be something that Jody would have to determine. You know, we've done that in the past. It could, I'm not sure it could be used for clean communities or anything like that. You know, that might be stretching it. But there's really no other money unless it's what Brad Haber put into the recreation grant, which I don't believe is much now, but you never know.
Mhm. Well, I think that's the only hurdle. We got the scope of services and what's his name? Jake from Triad. I always call him Jake from Triad. He went through the grant application and pulled out all the different sections of the grant and what needs to be put in there. So it sounds like they know what they're doing, and I would like to see them do the application. But like I said, it's due sometime in June. I don't know if it's the 1st of June or if June 30th.
Right. Well, if it's the 30th, we
It
might
says
be okay.
here, June 1st. So I mean, there's not a whole lot of time.
Right.
So,
Well, they could also bond maybe for it, you know, something like that, and then pay the bond back after the sale of the water treatment plant. But 3,700 is not a heavy lift for a grant. That's pretty, especially this type of
that's
a
the other thing I wanted to know, if you thought that was a lot or not.
No, not at all.
Okay, well, then we should try to get as much money as we can out of it. Because like I said, there is no limit on, I mean, $50 million is the limit. I mean, I'm sure that's the amount of money they would give to a city like Jersey City or something like that, but
Right.
we are qualified because we're considered a distress work. We would get a match waiver, and it's a
Right.
dollar per dollar match for this grant. We wouldn't have to put up any money at all to get the money, which is, I mean, that is an advantage that we really have to take advantage of these days, because if you could get money for free and without it costing you.
Right. So Jake told you there's no grant match?
Well, I went to I attended the webinars, that's 3 of them now, and certain communities, and we are on the list, are eligible to apply for the match waiver. And one of the questions I asked today was, is that match waiver something you have to apply for in advance of applying for the grant, or is it included in the grant application? I'm still waiting for that response, because we're qualified. We would get the grant waiver because we're listed. It's clearly listed. The other thing I did too is when the federal government announced the funding would be available, they gave every state a portion of the money. So I contacted New Jersey Urban and Community Forestry and talked to somebody there. And I have to call the fellow back. He emailed me and said he'd like to talk, because if we don't get this grant, or if, we can't come up with a plan, we could talk to them, and we could also apply to the state organization to get money. Because that's where we've been getting the $30,000 grants all along, from the New Jersey Urban and Community Forestry. So they know us, they know what we've done. He said, I'll be willing to talk to you about, what we could do at the state level. I don't know exactly how much money they got, but it's millions of dollars, you
Mhm.
know. So I think we should go for it and get whatever we can now that we're, you know, that we're able to come up with $3,700 to apply. And
Right.
years ago, that would have never been a bit, you know, that would have just not happened. But we're going to have some breathing room with
Right.
the sale of the water treatment plant. And the money is starting to fall from heaven, and we got to get it. We got to get whatever we can. Like you got your 400,000 for the lake. You
Right.
got 63,000 for recreation so far.
Yep.
That's all because we're qualified as a distressed community.
Right.
You know, people want to help towns like us revitalize ourselves. You know,
Mhm.
it's good for the environment. And when you think about Egg Harbor City, I mean, we're a developed city. We've been a developed city for 175 years.
Yep.
So my thing is, why are you going to go out there and tear down trees and build something new when you have a beautiful city here that just needs some help? It needs to be revitalized. You know, that's smart growth. That's smart planning, I think, is to take what you got instead of tearing down and destroying more, because that seems to be America's theme these days. Is like the same thing with the windmills and all. It's like, well, we destroyed the land. Now let's go destroy the ocean. That's the way a lot of people think about it. You know, it's like, yeah, we need that energy, but you know, we screwed up so bad here. We're going to go out there and now start screwing up the ocean too. So, you know, there's a lot of different ways to look at things, but
I have the same opinion about the moon. Same thing. They want to go do all this crazy stuff with the
there's
moon.
nothing up there.
Do they even realize that we actually need the moon to survive on the Earth? Seriously?
Yeah, so that's my 2 cents. I did a lot of talking. So anybody have anything else for the good of the cause? No.
No, I'll just add in that it seems a pretty complicated problem to solve with this tree ordinance. So I definitely love the expertise to really chime in, but seems like it's going to be quite an undertaking for sure.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, but we'll talk about it at ordinance tomorrow night. So there'll be like a couple more brains working on it. It's not nothing worth doing is easy. You know, everything is hard, and you get obstacles all the time. And you know, I just like have tunnel vision, and every once in a while something good happens. You know, and that's all you can hope for. You know.
Yeah. All right. Well, sounds good. We'll give it a whirl, you know?
All right. Anybody else? Not, we could sign off.
Okay. Good night, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Nice.
Bye.
Bye.